Somewhere in Midtown Manhattan, bolted to a lamppost like a harmless little parking meter, there's a gray box that does nothing all day but listen. Not for your speed, not for red lights. It's waiting for the sound of your exhaust. And the second you roll past it on a straight piped bike and crack the throttle, it photographs your plate, stamps the time, and mails you a ticket for $800. Nobody pulls you over. Nobody argues with you on the shoulder. The first you hear about it is a letter 2 weeks later telling you your pipes just cost you a car payment. And this is the part that should get your attention. New York is nowhere near the only city doing this. So if you ride, you've already got the comeback loaded for exactly this moment. Loud pipes save lives, at least that's what the sticker on the tank says. But what if the data is sitting on the city's side of the table? And what if this time the crackdown is actually working? Now look, I want to be fair to the creed because it doesn't come from nowhere. Every rider has had the moment. You're sitting at a light, full gear, headlight on, doing everything right, and the SUV next to you starts drifting into your lane like you're made of fog. To a lot of drivers, a motorcycle is basically invisible. So somewhere along the way, riders decided the fix was volume. If they can't see you, they'll hear you. Crack the pipes, announce yourself, make sure that distracted minivan knows a human being is right there beside them. It's emotional, it's intuitive, and on the surface it sounds airtight. The problem is what happens when you actually point a decibel meter at the idea and watch it fall apart. But we'll get to the meter in a minute, because first you need to understand just how big this fight has gotten. This isn't one cranky city council in one cold borough. Over the last few years, automated noise enforcement has quietly gone global. New York is running it right now. California ordered its highway patrol to study it. One London borough has been at it since 2020. Paris built a noise radar and nicknamed it after a Greek monster. Australia's been lining up noise camera trials in New South Wales. Edmonton, Canada tried the cameras, found they did not work, and raised its noise fines to $1,000. 4 continents. Same target, your exhaust. And the city with the most receipts, the one actually putting numbers on the board, is the one we started with. The New York machine works smarter than you'd think. The city's Department of Environmental Protection mounts an acoustic sensor on a pole. When it picks up a vehicle louder than 85 decibels, it wakes up a panoramic fisheye camera that drops a little red dot right on the source of the noise. So it knows it was you and not the bus next to you. Then a license plate reader grabs your tags. The whole package gets reviewed by an actual human inspector before anything goes in the mail, which matters because it's what keeps these tickets from getting laughed out of court, and they are mostly holding up. Of every summons the program issued in 2025, only about 1% got thrown out at a hearing. Now, to be clear, these aren't criminal convictions, they're civil penalties. And plenty of them stick simply because people never show up to fight them. But when a rider does contest one, they usually lose, because a human inspector already signed off on the evidence before it ever went in the mail. And the fines are where it stops being a slap on the wrist. Thanks to a New York state law with the greatest name in legislative history, the SLEEP Act, which stands for Stop Loud and Excessive Exhaust Pollution, a first offense for an illegal muffler or exhaust starts at $800. Rack up more, and you are staring down a maximum north of $2,600. The program started small, just one rented camera back in 2021. By 2025, the city was running 12 of them, and they wrote nearly 1,700 summonses in a single year. One camera, just one, parked in the Murray Hill neighborhood near East 36th Street, wrote 701 tickets all by itself. That's one little gray box quietly building a $500,000 case file against the loudest cars and bikes in the city. I mean, think about that for a second. You could ride past that thing once and never know your weekend just got more expensive. So at this point, you're probably thinking the obvious thing. This is a cash grab. The city smelled money in your tailpipe and built a robot to print it. And honestly, that's the smartest objection in this whole video. So let's actually check the math, because this is where the story gets interesting. It turns out the noise cameras are a terrible business. In 2025, that New York program wrote about $1.47 million in penalties. Sounds great, right? Except people don't pay. By the end of the year, the city had actually collected about 300,000 of that. Now subtract the salaries of the inspectors who review every single clip, which run close to $500,000 on their own, then add the bill from the outside company that calibrates and services the equipment, and you've got a program that, at least so far, costs more to run than it brings in. This is the part that should make a rider trust the rest of what I am about to tell you. If this were really just a scheme to bleed your wallet, it is the worst designed scheme in history. Which means the people running it probably are not doing it for the money. They are doing it because the complaints will not stop. And the second you accept that, the whole "they are just greedy" argument falls apart, and we are left with the uncomfortable question of whether the noise is actually the problem. Before we answer that, let us talk about the place where the crackdown hit a wall, because I promised you honesty, and California is the honest part. California has had a hard exhaust limit on the books for years. A motorcycle built after 1985 is not allowed to exceed 80 decibels, period. And in 2019, the state took away your favorite escape hatch. A loud exhaust ticket used to be a fix-it ticket, the kind you make disappear by quietly bolting your stock pipes back on and showing a cop. Not anymore. Under a law called Assembly Bill 1824, that ticket became a real fine, the kind that can climb toward $1,000 with no takebacks. So California, being California, decided to go full RoboCop and study sound cameras for the freeways. The legislature ordered the California Highway Patrol to test devices from multiple vendors and report back. In January 2025, that report landed. The California Highway Patrol set up the gear on Sacramento on ramps, recorded hundreds of loud vehicles, captured exhaust noise ranging from the 70s all the way up past 115 decibels, and then concluded something the rider community needs to hear out loud. The technology, in their words, was not good enough to stand on its own as an enforcement tool. The cameras could not reliably tell how much a vehicle was legally allowed to make noise, because the legal limit depends on the vehicle's weight class, and a microphone on a pole has no idea if it just heard a Civic or a box truck. So California's own Highway Patrol looked at the sound cameras and said, "Not yet." If you have been told California already has these things ticketing in 6 cities, that is a myth. They studied it and walked away, for now. So if the tech is shaky and the money is bad, why are all these governments still chasing it so hard? Because the noise complaints are not going away, and somewhere in all of this, the rider community's golden argument needs to get tested. So let's finally point that decibel meter at loud pipes save lives and see what happens. In 2020, a motorcycle advocacy group called MotoADN teamed up with a technical university in Bucharest and a noise consultancy to do the experiment nobody on a forum ever bothers to do. They used a parked car with the engine running and the radio at a normal level, and they rode 6 different motorcycles past it at different distances, from a few feet away to about 50 feet, measuring exactly how much of that glorious exhaust note made it to the driver's ears. And the result is brutal for the Creed. Past about 15 meters, roughly 50 feet, the driver inside that car basically could not hear the bikes at all. Not the quiet ones, not the loud ones, not even the monster that was pushing over 110 decibels at the pipe. To actually be heard inside a moving car at that distance, a motorcycle would need to produce something like 135 decibels, which is past the threshold of physical pain and not a thing your slip-ons can do. And this next part turns the whole argument inside out. Where does your exhaust point? Backward. The sound blasts out the rear of the bike, away from the one place danger usually comes from, which is in front of you and to the side. The classic motorcycle accident is a car turning left across your path, or pulling out of a junction into your lane. Those drivers are ahead of you. Your pipes are screaming at the empty road behind you. By the time the driver who is about to ruin your day could even hear your exhaust, you are already next to them, and next to them is way too late. The researchers measured it directly. The sound in front of the bike was meaningfully quieter than behind it. Their slogan, after all that testing, became 4 words that should honestly be on every tank instead of the old one. Let's be seen, not heard. Now, fair's fair, this study used parked cars, and it came from a pro-rider group, not a peer-reviewed lab, so it is not the final word from the heavens. But the physics underneath it does not care who funded the test. Exhausts point the wrong way. And this isn't some lone study floating against the entire field. It lines up with the most famous piece of motorcycle safety research ever done, the Hurt Report, named after Professor Harry Hurt, who put his team at the scene of nearly 1,000 real Los Angeles crashes back in the early 80s. What he found is the foundation of everything we understand about why riders go down. In 2/3 of the crashes involving another vehicle, the other driver violated the rider's right of way. And the single biggest reason, the thread running through almost all of it, was that drivers simply failed to see the motorcycle, not failed to hear it, failed to see it. What his data kept circling back to was conspicuity, being visible. The report found that riders who ran their headlights in daylight and wore bright, high visibility gear were involved in significantly fewer crashes. The stuff that gets you noticed before the driver makes their move, not a noise that arrives after they've already turned into you. And if you think this is some new anti-rider agenda cooked up by City Hall, wait until you hear who's been on the city's side the whole time. The largest motorcycle rights organization in America, the AMA, the people who go to bat for riders against bad laws, has, by its own account, opposed excessive motorcycle noise since the day it was founded in 1924. 100 years. Their own position says that few things have done more to create prejudice against motorcyclists than obnoxiously loud bikes. They even run a program that hands out sound meters to local clubs so riders can police themselves before the government does it for them. The group fighting hardest for your right to ride is begging you to turn it down because they can see what's coming. When the loudest minority of riders make the whole community look like a public nuisance, the laws that follow don't ask who was being reasonable. If this is changing how you think about that sticker on your tank, do me a favor and hit subscribe, because this is exactly the kind of stuff I dig into every week. Now, while America's been fighting about microphones on poles, the rest of the world has been quietly running the same experiment, and Europe is further down the road than we are. Across the Atlantic, the British government ran a serious roadside trial of noise cameras, spending £300,000 to plant them at 4 sites and just watch. And the most interesting result wasn't the tickets, it was the silence. Over the trial, an average of around 18,000 vehicles rolled past each camera every single day, and across all 4 sites, only 26 motorcycles crossed the line into genuinely, excessively loud. Out of all that traffic, 26, which tells you the obnoxious minority really is a minority. But here's the detail that everyone missed at the time. The transport department noticed that drivers and riders were changing their behavior around the cameras. They were going quieter near the installation, and some were straight up rerouting to avoid the things entirely. Read that again. The camera didn't even have to write a ticket to win. Just knowing it was there changed how people rode. That's the whole game. And the UK already has permanent versions running, including in the wealthy London borough of Kensington and Chelsea, which started this back in 2020 and now runs a fleet of them. The British government has gone back and forth on a full national rollout, and as recently as 2025, they hit pause on issuing nationwide guidance, which tells you the tech still isn't fully nailed down. But local police forces aren't waiting. They are funding their own pilots and putting cameras up themselves. Then there's Paris, which approached this with the appropriate amount of French drama. A nonprofit there built a noise radar that uses an array of microphones to triangulate exactly which vehicle made the sound, then reads its plate, and they nicknamed the thing Medusa, after the monster whose stare turned people to stone. The legal trigger sits at 85 decibels on a typical city street, and the fine for setting it off is 135 euros, knocked down to 90 euros if you pay quickly. And the reason Paris cares this much comes down to one genuinely wild statistic from the city's noise researchers. By their estimate, a single unmuffled scooter crossing the city at night can wake as many as 10,000 people. One bike, thousands of interrupted nights. When you frame it that way, you start to see why a city of millions stops seeing your exhaust as freedom and starts seeing it as one person stealing sleep from a whole neighborhood. And this isn't just about being annoyed. Across Europe, agencies now tie chronic traffic noise to tens of thousands of early deaths a year through stress and heart strain, and France alone pegs the social cost of noise in the hundreds of billions. That's the ammunition the other side is loading into every one of these laws, and the pattern just keeps repeating wherever you look. In Australia, the New South Wales Environment Agency runs a system where neighbors can report a loud vehicle, drag the owner in for a noise test, and hit them with tiered fines that get steeper the louder you are. They've been openly preparing to trial noise cameras around Sydney and Wollongong. Up in Edmonton, Canada, they actually ran the sound camera experiment for years and hit the exact same wall California did. The tech couldn't pin the noise on the right vehicle to the standard a courtroom demands, so they scrapped it. But the city didn't drop the fight. A couple of years later, in 2023, the council raised the fine for a loud vehicle to $1,000, enforced the old-fashioned way by actual officers. And in 2025, they voted to give the cameras another try, this time just to gather data, since Alberta law still won't let a camera write the ticket. So even when the robots fail, the Crackdown just changes weapons. It doesn't retreat. And there is one front almost nobody talks about, the one that might matter more than any camera. The cameras come for you after you have already broken the law. The EPA in the United States is going after the people who sell you the parts in the first place. Under federal clean air rules, tampering with a vehicle's emissions and noise equipment, or selling the gear that does it, carries civil penalties that can run tens of thousands of dollars per vehicle, and they are absolutely using them. Over a recent 4-year stretch, the EPA wrapped up well over 100 civil cases worth more than $55 million in penalties, plus criminal cases that put people behind bars. The aftermarket performance company Cobb Tuning paid a civil penalty of nearly $3 million. A tuning operation called PPEI paid over $3 million more. That is the kind of number that makes accountants cry. Think about what that actually means for the long game. You can dodge every camera in your city, but if the federal government keeps hitting the companies that make the loud parts with million-dollar penalties, the whole aftermarket gets a lot more cautious about what it is willing to sell. They are not just hunting riders, they are choking the pipeline. So let's answer the question this whole thing is built on. Is it actually working? And the honest answer is yes, But not in the way the headlines want you to believe. It's not working because robots are writing 1 million tickets and draining your bank account. We saw that the money barely covers the coffee budget, and we saw that in California and Edmonton, the cameras flat out failed the courtroom test. So if you measure working by tickets and revenue, it's a flop. But that was never the real scoreboard. The real win is the thing the British trial caught on accident. People going quiet near the cameras, people rerouting, the deterrence that works before a single fine is ever issued. Add in the fines climbing into $1,000 territory from New York to Canada, the EPA squeezing parts suppliers with $1 million penalties, and the fact that when you actually explain noise cameras to the public, around 7 out of 10 people say yes, put more of them up. The riders are loud, but they're outnumbered, and the law follows the numbers. The technology is the only thing that is behind, and technology has a habit of catching up. So where does all this leave us? That gray box on the Manhattan lamppost isn't really the story, it's just the part you can see. The real story is that an argument riders have leaned on for 50 years. The idea that volume keeps you alive has never actually held up under testing, because your exhaust is shouting at the empty road behind you while the danger sits silently in front. The Crackdown isn't winning because the cameras are good. It's winning because for once the people writing the laws are pointing at something that's actually true. The thing that keeps a rider alive was never the noise, it was being seen. So the real question isn't whether they can ban your pipes. They're already doing that on 4 continents, and they're getting better at it. The real question is whether the loud pipes crowd figures out the data before the cameras finish the argument for them. If you ride, you already know which side of this you are on, and I want to hear it, so drop it in the comments. And if you want the deep dive on the gear that actually does keep you alive in traffic, the conspicuity stuff, the data really backs. That video is right here on the screen. Go watch it.